What is it about riding a bike that is so liberating? What unites us all is the craving for that special feeling. This is what inspired the developers at Garneau to create the innovative, award-winning X-Comfort technology, optimizing comfort to maximize performance and, most of all, the good feelings that make us so passionate about riding. The brand new X-Comfort Zone incorporates an elasticized zone that expands up to 5 mm to accommodate B through D+ foot widths. We all pedal in the same way. As you push down, your toes naturally splay. And the dynamic changes that happen inside your shoe as your feet contract and expand under pressure as you ride. The pressure and friction created as the outside of your foot expands over and over against your shoe can create serious and painful hot spots and irritations. The longer you ride, the worse it can become. This makes for a level of never-before-experienced comfort in the highest-performing cycling footwear. Every cyclist rides for that special feeling that cycling brings to us. Each one of us has our own version of what it means to enjoy the ride. We just help make it possible.
Go down the road. All right, don't throw your arms in the air. Don't do anything crazy. No random shit, okay?
I had my own strategy. I was actually working for you guys. So what I did at the last moment, I just pulled back. So you guys need to buy me some beers.
Esports. We love to play. Since the 1980s, video games and competitive gameplay have been part of our Western culture. The video arcade, the Atari, Nintendo, PlayStation, even PC gaming are all part of this rich cultural lineage of play. We play ourselves, we watch, we even compete. What makes an esport? Well, any individual or team game that can be played on a level playing field in competition, whether that's live or online.
Still alive! Charm's gonna land onto him! Is he gonna be able to walk away? Baker is still running! Oh, damage him! There's another turn! And expansion goes down!
While there are half a dozen top-tier esports, more than 100 different titles are being played competitively around the world. Esports break all boundaries. They're played by men and women across cultures and can be played on consoles, PCs, and even mobile devices. Esports are truly a world sport. Over the last decade, we've seen interest, broadcasting, and live events eclipse those of their traditional sport counterparts. Esports are a massive draw. We love to watch them live, and we love to watch them stream. For people under 30, video games are the most popular media industry in the world, more popular than television, music, or movies. But competitive video game play is not just something we do, it's something we watch. In 2016, more people watched the League of Legends Championships than the World Series, the NBA Championships, or the Stanley Cup playoffs. That makes the top 3 sporting events in the World Cup, the Super Bowl, and a video game competition. Esports are the sport of the rising generation. Talented players, broadcasters, and managers are filling every level from professional, now to collegiate, high school, and even Pee-wee. To many, esports is the biggest world they've never heard of. But to millennials, it's the future of competition, of broadcasting, and of sport. But not the distant future, the future of today. This is esports. Cyclogen's Virtual Rankings is a ranking system for Zwift racers, built to make racing more fun for all levels of ability. The rankings are based on historical data, as well as new race results, which are uploaded immediately. Racers are divided into divisions, and points are distributed based on the strength of the field in the race. Terms are separated into months, quarters, years, and lifetime. And at the end of each term, racers are able to be promoted to a new division. High-scoring elite racers are also automatically under consideration to participate in a CVR World Cup event.
We're on a journey and we're going by bike. Bicycles set people free. It starts as kids when bikes set us free to explore the edges of our neighborhood. It continues into adulthood when weekend rides set our minds free from work and worry. It's the reason why still today bikes are at the heart of everything we do. Through our products, we propel bike lovers forward, be it in pursuit of personal enjoyment or peak performance. Through our business approach, we strengthen our community in Madison, Wisconsin, where we design and build the vast majority of our American-made products. Through our advocacy, we promote healthier, happier, bike-smart communities, both locally and nationally. We set out on this journey the day Sarah and Chris combined names to form Saris. So grab a bike and join us.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is CVR World Cup, the league. Not the board game, not the movie, but this is the league. This is live every week. Every Tuesday, you can come and see some of the best cyclists, either virtual or real, racing here. If you're joining us on Facebook or on Mixer, welcome. We're thrilled to have you here. We're going to knock out 40 kilometers of amazing virtual world racing on real bikes. This is the hardest video game ever. And you're going to see the best at it take off here in about 6.5 minutes. Well, what are they racing? They're racing this course, the London Loop, 29.8 kilometers. All right, I embellished a little bit, but 440 meters, you can get out your Siri and find out how many feet that is. But it's a lot. It's a lot to climb on a bike, especially surrounded by the fastest racers anywhere. And we call this climb the truth, because at the end, there are no liars still with the group. They can either ride or they can't. One of those is Brian Typman. He has been doing a great job all season as we're in week 6 here of CVR World Cup lead. He is chasing this man, Shane Gaffney. They're just a couple of spots different, and you're going to get to see those men race today. But over on the women's side, there are a couple more, including Anna. I struggle to say it, Beneviente. She's been doing an amazing job all year, and she's trying to chase down and be in the pocket of this woman, Dr. Allison Kubota. That's right, you know her from CVR World Cup LA, the major. She is the one to beat here on the London Loop course. It is not flat in the least. So as we kick this off, take a peek at those who are doing well this week. Right now, at the top of the leaderboards, Scotty Weiss, or Weiss. You know what? You can call him whatever you want. Chased by Eric Sorensen, Shane Gaffney, Jeremy Hunter, and the rest of the crew. Over on the men's side, the top 3, Juan Ignacio, Ben Lepine, and Tim Norris. And over on the men's C side, Frank Levick, Derek Abbots, and Mason Butler. That's the crew that you have to follow And we're going to show you what the pen looks like right now. Maybe even with 2 minutes left, a quick little tour around the group. We definitely have some of our favorites here today. Everybody knows Scotty. He's wearing those World Championship stripes, although the jersey looks just a little bit different today, but I believe it has all 5 appropriate colors, both in-world and out. As we look in the pen here, you see these folks lining up, giving each other a little bit of encouragement. McLaughlin is in the group today. Big E, Eric Sorensen, Shane Gaffney, who we mentioned just a moment ago. Cameo, again, back for some punishment. McCabe, Team Draft. It looks like they are going to try to get Team Draft a really, really nice finish. In a little bit, we're going to bring you the finish of the previous zone, Zone F, and an unbelievable sprint finish where one of your well-known Team Draft riders was in the position to win it. Did he come out with it, or was the sprint too much? We'll show you that, so don't go away. 30 seconds to start here. This is how it's going to go. This laser gate is going to drop. You don't want to go first, or you'll be cut into many little pieces. That's how it works in the virtual world. But this gate is going to drop. All of these folks are going to ramp up and do their best big dig, high watts, to make sure that they get up to speed very, very quickly. You can't gradually move up to speed here, or you're going to get left behind. Now, then it will neutralize to an extent, we would assume, but it's entirely possible that, as done in the past, Scotty Weiss will kick it into high gear and leave the group behind. They know that they've got to stay with them if they have any chance, and here they go. Going hard. Eric Sorensen, Big E from Team Draft, trying to stay on the wheel of Scotty Weiss. He's delivering 5.56 watts per kilo. Doesn't blow the doors off here at the very beginning. I think he'll save his his abuse for a little bit later. He is a former world champion after all. That's what the rainbow stripes will do for you. And looks like he's got a good group with him. They are long and thin, but they are not broken by any measure. Okay, big push through the middle. Aldrush, not a name, or Andrush, not a name that we know as well. He just kind of drifts to the front, gets himself in that spot. He is the Australian rider. Now, Lucelle also in there with, of course, Cannondale 4i. Thank you for shortening the Cannondale. That used to be the longest name in all of virtual cycling. It took about 4 minutes for all the characters to float by in the marquee style. But there is the man that you would expect to know. That's Scotty Weiss right there in the rainbow stripes right in front of us. Now, he is just kind of settling in here. Here's what we've got. We've got just a fair amount of in the city, just kind of casual riding. There's Scotty from his position, maybe making an adjustment on his camera, taking a look. He is on rollers, as we mention every week. If you're new to this, then maybe that doesn't make sense to you. Those are like Fred Flintstone's car turned upside down, and he pedals on top of that, and somehow that turns into power, and he goes like crazy. Here they are coming through the Prudential banner. This isn't the official start of much of anything, but it is a good finishing point for this race. We're going to return here in 2 laps. Little drift off the front by Eric Sorensen as he drops his feather. He needed to drop that about the time he got to the banner. He did it appropriately. This isn't probably something he's going to be penalized for, even though he still had that. Most everybody will drop any power-ups they have before they get to that banner, so that we can get there. Shane Gaffney, the man right now. GaffneyCycleCoaching.com. That's what was available. He got that. I'm not positive. There's a good chance it's oh, here we go. Big dig coming right now. This thing is starting to get a little bit more serious. That would be Scotty Weiss instigating there at the front. Those big orange numbers on the right side indicate watts, over 8 watts per kilo. That is a lot of watts versus your weight. That means you're working hard. So just when you see orange, know that that means someone is working hard. Scotty, with that half smile on his face, gets out of the saddle again, puts down some serious power. That's the guy we know. About to come under this tunnel. He's not going to get away from Lucelle, from Sorensen, or Gaffney. Those guys are going to stay right with him, but he's pressuring them nonetheless. Okay, Now we're going to jump over to the women's field right now. The laser gate drops. The same thing happens again. Lather, rinse, repeat. We go hard at the very beginning so we don't get left behind. Allison Kubota knows how to do this. She is, after all, a doctor. Well, PhD at least, material sciences. But Allison Kubota, the vision writer, making sure that she gets in a great position right on the tail of Angela Webster with Stephanie Ossenbrink right behind her. Trina Weiss right behind as well. And this is the group that you would expect to see. Katie Pottier trying to close down that gap right there. She is one of the more popular cyclists here. And from her perspective, she is working hard. This is the telemetry that you're going to see multiple times today. But this is Grupo Compacto. The 5 women that we are following here are all together at this point. Allison not at the front of the group, but just sitting where she needs to be. Trina Weiss also in that group, as we would expect. Jenny ticking those red numbers, trying to make sure she gets onto the group also. That's the telemetry we'll show you for both men and women. Now, a couple of the other riders that you got to pay close attention to in this field. There she is, Trina Weiss. She is actually the spouse of Scotty Weiss. They are both racing in their house at the same time, both world-class, fabulous racers. We appreciate both of them being out here. But what a great commitment it is for a family to kind of work out their lives so they can get exercise together, so they can train together, and so they can race together and root each other on. They are each other's biggest fans. I heard that from Scotty himself. Okay, and we'll bring you all of these. This is Allison Kubota. We often say that she is riding for Team Postal Service because of the boxes behind her, but that is not actually true. She's got family, she's got friends around her. That's her team car walking by, or perhaps it's someone to come deliver a parcel. Do you want that 2-day post? Do you want that ground? How do you want it? We can do it overnight, so about twice as much. But Allison not focused on any of what we're saying, focused entirely on the race in front of her, making sure that no one's going to get away from her at this point. Everybody is keyed up for the climb. Now, the men's race has stayed pretty hot and heavy. They're starting to hit the climb right here on the main cameras, and things, the main climb. There's no main climb here. This is just uphill a little bit. As they come up toward Trafalgar Square, things are starting to get serious. As we mentioned, Eric Lucelle is the camera that we are looking at, but McCabe from Team Draft trying to get off the front. You'll notice Team Draft, they have that red stripe down their back. There's another one, Big E, Eric Sorensen. He's a tall fella, and he is another one of these riders in the light blue and orange. That's the ODZ jersey of Shane Gaffney, great member of that team as well. And Lucelle with the white jersey, that's a new one I actually haven't seen. We'll touch on that maybe a little bit later. But as they come up and over, you tend to see where people get in trouble. Top Cork and Andrush all kicked off the back a little bit. We saw that attack from him a little bit early. That was the Australian rider. Here comes Shane Gaffney, and this is what it looked like as he comes up and over that hill. He's focused entirely on putting his wheel on the wheel of Scotty Weiss to make sure that he stays wherever he goes. A little bit of a head shake. 180 beats per minute. Quick towel off for Shane. He's got to put himself in the right spot so he gets maximum draft from those big riders. He wants to stay right where he needs to. Big E is a great wheel to get on. But Shane, in his own right, has every opportunity to win this. Last week we had a flat course. He was in there for the big sprint finish with that main group all over the place. Okay, these men coming back together, about ready to take that left-hander as they come past Whitehall. Here she is right now, Trina Weiss. She's not on rollers. That's okay. You don't have to be. This is what her game view looks like together. We've got Trina. We've got her. She's got a C there because it's Katrina, but people call her Trina. Well, her friends like me, we call her Trina, right? Okay, back on board with Allison Kubota too. You see some different styles in the way people are hooking up their cameras here. Welcome everybody on Facebook. What are you watching on today? Are you watching on Mixer? Probably. Many of you are. What about Hulu? Anybody? Probably not on Hulu. Okay, we're not on Hulu yet, but hey, it could happen. Stranger things have happened. Full House, the original series, back on Hulu. Who thought that would happen? Family Matters. It's all there. Okay. As we look on board now, Angela Webster, Team Vixen, one of the more compelling riders here. You recognize that purple jersey from Vixen. Is it really purple? Let us know in the chat. What color is that jersey she's wearing in the game? Not in real life. I don't want anything like dusty chartreuse or anything like that. Give us the focus, real colors here.
All right. She is in a group with Allison Kubota, Lisa Hewitt, Jenny Mattis, who we called her name just a little bit earlier. Trina Weiss is hanging out in this group as well. She's a very strong rider. She wants to hang on as long as she can. Pay close attention, ladies and gentlemen, to those heart rates and see what's going on. How about Shane Gaffney's heart rate coming over the bridge here? This is officially the London Bridge here, not the Tower Bridge. That's the tall one, which often is thought to be London Bridge. You want to pay special attention to that. That'll be on the test as we come through here. Now, Shane Gaffney trying to just hang on the wheel. This gets long and thin, and it's Cameo, who is driving it at the front right there, trying to create a little bit of interest and action, and they are doing it. They're not going to separate Scotty from this group, but they may be able to separate one of the other foes. And if you can get somebody off the back of the group and you can hang on that group for a little bit longer, that's plus 3 points for you, right? That is a marked increase in the number of points that you're going to get in this one of 8 regular season races. Right now, Scotty in the lead. He's been streaming the whole time, getting that only 5 point, but 5 points out of 1,000, big streaming bonus. We see immediately that there are some guys who missed this cut. They are trying to catch on. Now, if some of these guys get blown off the back, Atsushi, maybe it gets blown off the back, Jeremy can catch on. All right, big attack by Allison Kubota right now. She is the one instigating here at the front, and it is big time. She's gotten some gaps on Ossenbrink and Webster, on Hewitt, on Mattis, and they are going in the wrong direction. They are dropping like a big kid on the teeter-totter. That is not what they want at all. Mattis, Pottier, Cabrera, Winkle, all in the negative numbers. There were plus numbers, right? You do not want a plus number next to you. You want to see plus numbers next to the others. There she is, Angela Webster, trying to pull back. As they come up over that hill, they come past Whitehall here, which they're about to cover here. They're finding that that was the hill that they were going to try to break some stuff up. And you can tell very quickly if the legs are not quite there and can't do it. All right, the men, Eric Lucelle, chasing the front here, marking the front, being a very diligent lieutenant. For who? Not sure, but he is staying right near the front of this group. Eric Sorensen, Scotty Weiss, right at the front. Scotty doing 7 watts per kilo. He is about to start drifting away, and that is not what the rest of this group wants. Here is where it all falls apart for these men. Lucelle has got to close that gap. It's maybe 2 meters, 3 meters to the wheel. A Big E Sorensen, Cameo, now with a 1 second gap. These guys behind going, come on, Cameo. You've got to close that down. Look at that gap. You've got 3 men off the front. These are like stages of a rocket separating. You do not want to be falling back to earth like these guys are. Shane Gaffney on the wrong side of this split. As it comes apart, you see what happens here. He is right on the wheel of Cameo, and then Cameo does not let that, or he opens it. He lets that open, and that's what you can't have. Now, in the real world, if that happens in a race, you're going to bark at that guy. Close that gap. But in a race like this, you can't. Comes around him, and he can't do it. Now, you see just early stages of the telemetry here. You've got Scotty and Big E up there in that group. Shane Gaffney in a chase group. Atsushi also chasing on, but it looks like he's going to get pulled back. It is now almost 9 seconds. It's a trio up there. We're only showing you 2 in that field. That should be enough. Don't complain. Seriously, we'll turn this race around. We'll go back to the start. You appreciate what you've got there. Now, as we see that group come back together, this is Big E Sorensen. In his view, he lives in 3 frames a second. It's true. That's just how his world works. He talks in 3 frames a second, makes words come out kind of jumbled. But Scotty Weiss right there at the front of this now, not much of a gap on Sorensen. Looks like 7, 5 meters. This is everything that Sorensen has to stay on the wheel of Scotty. And Scotty's, doing his standard hard effort here. I don't think he'd be opposed to having somebody come with him here and to have someone, just to work with and to keep him entertained. It's a story for us to tell. If you're listening, Scotty, don't drop Big E. We need a story to tell. We're going to forget about you. You're going to get so far off the front this week. We can't have that. Eric Lucelle now 14 seconds back to the next group. Shane, tongue out, trying to just stay with this trio. This is the right group. You can descend well with this group.
They're midway into this climb, almost to the halfway point. They're going to go around and crush the painted section here on the ride. You know what? I think you probably think I'm completely alone here, but there is somebody else here. It is a puppet that I have in my hand that I'll have a conversation. No, I'm kidding. It is Frank Garcia. And so here's my question to you. Let's launch it in this direction. You've got this twosome up the road with Scotty and Big E. Can Big E stay on his wheel enough?
No, he can't. Away from the chasing group of McCabe, Gaffney, Tomofuji, and Kameo, I think is the bigger question. I think those four are going to work together and try and pull back Eric first, and then hopefully Scotty a little bit beyond. I think Scotty's total gap at this point is about 50 seconds. It's about 50 seconds in real time. You see it looks a little bit less here. It looks like 37 seconds on Zwift, but if we look at telemetry, we'll see that is 50 seconds in real time. Our telemetry takes the point that the rider passes a point and looks at that. And then we're going to go ahead and switch over to the ladies. I'll talk a little bit about the climb today as we do that. And what you're going to see here is we've got the first climb. Scotty's going to look to blow that up because he can time trial, and he is going to look to stay away for the duration. I'm kind of hoping a little bit, Big E wouldn't like this, that group behind Eric Sorensen, Lascelles, Gaffney, they can form a group of 6, and I think that's much more likely to chase Scotty down and then attack on the climbs as well. We're just starting to get to the climbs with the ladies. We're going up the hill here. Looks like we're all together on telemetry. So we've got Katrina, Stephanie Ossenbrink, Angela Webster, and Ellison. And looks like our helicopter's gone behind some trees. So we're missing a couple of the feeds. We'll try and pull those back in. We've got Ellison on the front as we look at that. But one of the things I like about this telemetry is versus sort of a squiggly line that we had last week with Pancake Flat, this one's got some real substance, some real bite. It's going to put some real hurt into the legs as people climb, today as well.
And that is the story on the day. Scotty, as he comes up over the top, we can't see him from this position, but we do see Allison Kubota, the vision rider, on the front of this race. Stephanie Ossenbrink doing a nice job trying to stay on her wheel. Angela Webster as well. That is a Team Vixen, a Team WUR, and a Team Vision rider, all there in the top. And of course, Trina Weiss, who we mentioned just a little bit ago, hanging on to that quartet tenuously, unfortunately, off the back. That is not off the back, but tail gunning. That is a tough position to be in. You want to get as much advantage out of this as you possibly can. There's what the group looks like from her perspective. She's right in there with them in a good position, actually just trying to stay there. Now, we do know this about Allison. She is not a really explosive rider. She can sprint a little, but that's not what she's known for. She's known for big, steady, just electric power. And that is what she's able to provide. As that drops out just a little bit on us, we do see there's some ride-ons coming in for Trina, and that's always good to see. They pull back to the wheel of Allison Kubota, and things just go a little bit better. But that is where we would expect her to be and what we would expect her to be doing at this point. She doesn't really care about what's going on around her. She's such a strong rider in her own right. She just gets in her suffer position and she just goes. And that's what Allison does really, really well. The men, as they are coming together here, are doing nice stuff up at the front. Here we are with Big E Sorensen. He has a 41-second gap on Lascelles, but that next group that we talked about just a moment ago, you talked about, Frank, Kameo, Gaffney, and I'm just going to say it again so that I can show that I can say it. Atsushi Tomofuji. Easy for you to say, right? Say it 3 times fast. Atsushi Tomofuji is in that group and doing a nice job. They're all kind of collected in that zone together. There with Gaffney, they're going to be able to pull together. Top Cork is also going to be able to get into that group Andrich as well. Okay, but Big E Sorensen is now just trying to manipulate that gap a little bit more. He's in a great spot to add a lot of points, regardless of what Scotty does. Now, here is the other Weeks. This would be Trina Weeks, climbing the hill. She's right on the heel of these other folks. But look who has come unhinged. Stephanie Ossenbrink doing an amazing job this season, coming back from illness, really fighting well to stay in this group. But a climb like this, as we've mentioned in the beginning, is truth, right? You know how strong you are as an all-arounder if you can also climb this hill with the best of them. Oh, there she is right now. You see Angela Webster's avatar. That is her rocking the Hawk. They like to rock the Hawk on Velocity Vixen team. Those are the purple jersey, orange stripe, orange sleeve, pocket full of ride-ons. That means lots of love. That's the 3D equivalent of a like, or I don't know, what do they use on MySpace these days? Who knows? But that group is chasing hard. Allison Kubota right at the front, just with her own pace, her own concern as she does this. They're about to the top of the hill. There's not much further left. They're going to come really around a nice sweeping right-hander here, and then it's going to begin to flatten out. And this separation came at the wrong time for Stephanie Ossenbrink. She finds herself detached off the back and chasing. Now, can she cover enough? It looks like, because she's a watt per kilo now lower than the rest of that group, that she may have done what I often do, which is pop like a balloon. There's just nothing you can do about it. You find yourself off the back with that red line. Here is what it looks like in telemetry. Trina, just you see that teasing 1 second. Is she on? Is she off? Is she on? You got to close that. At this slow speed, that could only be 5-6 meters, but it is enough. 25 seconds to Stephanie Ossenbrink, and another 1:44 back to the remainder of that group. It's exciting to see. We have a trio of women together. Nice job to these folks for making this climb. All right, back to the men. Here's what we see. 40 seconds from Eric to Scotty. Scotty dipping into the red here, big time into the red. And 51 seconds to Holden, to Shane, and to Atsushi. Those guys are the real chase group. And the question we got to answer here is, can that group catch Big E? He's their carrot. Can the three of them work together? Can Shane Gaffney sled dog that group and make them even faster? And I think that they can. 3 is faster than 1. That's math. You can look it up. They've been using it for years. All right. Any one of these riders, by the way, you can check out over on cycleview.cvrworldcup.com. I am going to say that again because I was so excited it came out weird. Cycleview.cvrworldcup.com. And I've got Scotty up right now. I've had David Torello up a little bit. I think I'll bring up Jenny Mattis because that's fun. Because you can choose the riders you want. You can also watch 1 stream or 2 stream. You can add some pop-ups and slide them over your browser if you're riding. There's our guy right now. That would be Frank Levick. He is killing it in the B group right now and in a great spot on the climb. Right there with Holmes, Ben Holmes. He's been chasing him quite a bit. The guys he's trying to outrun, McGinnis, the Vision rider, not far behind him. And looks like he's put quite a bit of time on Reyes, the WBR rider this time. Nice work, Mr. Frank Levick. Maybe we want a Coca-Cola, and I don't know why. Not sure. I'm thirsty now. Okay, I'll have to wait until after the race, and I won't take a breath until the end unless we can get Frank to answer a really important question for us in just a second. But we'll do that after this break. No, the break is now when we go to Frank, because the question is this. Now, these guys, we're in week 6. We're getting close to the decision of who is going to advance to this next race, to this World Cup event, which is a live event if you're just joining us on Mixer, and it looks like a bunch of you are. Hey, Mixer. But are going to advance to the live event in Vancouver, British Columbia, where they're going to race almost face-to-face, face to buns. They're all in a long straight line. So, there's some we would expect to be there. I mean, Scotty, he's doing great in the point standing. He's running away with this race. But But who else do you think we're going to see there? Who are some of the names that people are throwing around saying, oh my gosh, it would be amazing to see them race live?
I think we see a couple of people from the zone just previous to this, Zone F. We've got Kai Barrett and Greg Leo racing in that zone. So I think both of them are drooling a little bit over the 10K prize purse as a minimum. We have crowdfunding as well in Vancouver. So I think they're both interested in seeing if they can get there. We've obviously got Scotty here, Big E Sorensen as well on the men's side. Ellison here on the lady side from Zone G looks to be in good stead, odds-on favorite in terms of making the World Cup from this zone. We take the winner of each zone, goes to the finals in Vancouver, and we can look at standings and see a number of different standings throughout the different zones that will give us a sense for who can go from each of those zones.
So I think there are a lot of folks who are very people that are very interested in what's going on, connecting with the folks that are there. To me, I'm really excited to see the possibility of what would a Trina Weiss, how would she do against a Lauren McMurtry, from the previous. I want to see a Vicky Whitelaw, and I think we're going to see this against an Allison Kubota, right? How do those two match up together? There are 8 worldwide zones for those of you just joining us. Hello there, Mixer. The interesting thing is, how will these different zones who don't normally race together do racing against one another? Here we see Trina Weiss coming down. She's managed to stay with that trio. Angela Webster drifting a little bit off the front, but that's not a move. That's just physics. We won't draw the formula for you, but just trust us. It's there. It's true. Science.
I can draw the formula for you, Chris. Okay, so we're talking a little bit about physics. One of the interesting things about virtual worlds is the recreation of the physics. One of the things that the brain is really good about, even though it might not know the actual formulas, is understanding what is real and what is not. So one of the things that game designers, even sort of arcade game designers, spend a lot of time doing is getting the physics right, because your brain instantly knows if the ball doesn't bounce right, if it doesn't have the right arc when it flies with accordance with gravity. And your brain just won't like that particular game, because it just sort of messes with how you grew up kicking a ball, how you grew up throwing a ball. If the ball doesn't move in that same sort of manner, your brain is just disconcerted. In fact, when you look into some of the augmented reality and virtual reality where you've got your eyes covered, we used to think that people only saw it, at 30 hertz, and then it was 60 hertz. And really, in order to not lose your balance and get your brain sort of disconcerted, we need to be up at like 120 hertz. And that's how they found people becoming nauseated at lower hertz rates. And so even though you don't think you can perceive it, there are neurons firing in your brain that definitely perceive that stuff. So game designers spend a lot of time making the physics in a game match reality so that your brain has an easy time dealing with that in the virtual world. So we are having one of the things we talk about here in terms of Zwift is drafting physics. When you go up a gradient, how that feels when they're on these different, you see Scotty here going up maybe a little bit of an incline here, and you see he gets out of the saddle and he feels that resistance in his legs just like he would outside. You have a little bit more control in a virtual world. That's one of the benefits of the virtual worlds, is that you do have a little bit of that control that you might not have in the real world as well.
So Scotty throwing down the I understand. I'm not sure what he understands, but it's probably more than me, especially when it comes to bike racing. So Frank, here's the trivia question for you. The Mario jump, that is the Mario, jump from Mario, Mario, right? Is physically impossible, but how different is it, right? Is it does he stay in the air twice as long as he should, 1.5 times as long as he should, or 3 times as long as he should? If you answer this question correctly, I've got a prize for you, Frank.
1.33 times as long.
It's actually 1.5, but I'll give you this box of Kleenex as a way of showing that you were close enough. Close enough indeed. All right, back on board with Trina. She has gotten detached from Allison and of course Angela. That is a tough spot to be in, but we often talk about the value of the elevator. She doesn't want to be alone right here. She's digging deep. She's got to try to get back on that group, and she may be able to. They're not going that hard. They're not that far up ahead. Well, Angela Webster is now digging. She sees the effort here and sees an opportunity. You can look up the road there, and you can see those 2 riders. They are 9 seconds ahead. We only see, from her perspective, the racers who are in the race. There are many more people in this virtual world, but that is it. She's got what she can give at this point, but she's got a 3-minute head start on Hewitt, 3.5 minutes on Katie Pottier, Jen Mattis, and Cabrera, Vivian Workman, and many, many more. She's given herself, by jumping on that elevator, exactly what she needs. Allison Kubota responding here. Allison is a really strong, really talented vision rider. Of course, Angela Webster, the Velocity Vixen rider, rocking the hawk just in front of her. This is USA versus Canada. We've seen this many, many times. We've seen it in all sorts of things. I even believe Michael J. Fox at one point claimed to be a fighter pilot for the U.S. and was going to invade Canada. We'll have to go back and check out that episode of Family Ties. We'll do that in the after show. Katie Pottier, smiling like she does under duress. Look over her head. That is a really cool projector. She must have the coolest cycling wall ever. Takes up most of her space. It's like virtual reality there for her. She's got no goggles on. She doesn't need them. She's got sweet headphones, nice headband. Team PTZ doing a great job here. Her director sportif, BJ Alfonso, probably smiling wherever he is and probably typing into some chat right now saying, hey, my team is really, really good. And you know what, BJ? They are. We're glad to have him on the course. Now, we are 1 lap in. We've got this big climb to go. Trina Weiss doing a nice job trying to set her own pace. This is the solo time trial. I can't even tell you, Frank, how many races I have raced where I start with a group. It's a group race, and then it turns into an individual time trial, right? Just trying to outrun, anybody who's left behind me.
One of the things I think is that you mentioned that is very interesting. So we've got on the telemetry here, we've got Scotty out in front, 1 minute and 20. Looks like he's got the race well in hand from a time trials perspective. But I think the more interesting part of this race is Eric Sorensen. He's got about 1 minute 10 on a group of 3 people chasing him. Now, I'm surprised they haven't chased a little bit harder. So Eric put into the gambit, showing that he is strong himself as a time trialist. I expected the other 3 or 4 gentlemen to possibly come back and get him. And here's what's interesting about this. So you've put a minute in, you're feeling pretty confident, but the other 3 are pretty well rested. That climb is going to hurt. It's going to be interesting to see if Eric can stay away on the climb as he makes that climb. If the other 3 or just one of the other 3 has saved enough energy to make it all the way back. And if that's the case, then it will be advantage person catching Eric. 1, Eric's spirit will be somewhat diminished, and 2, certainly he will have put a lot of energy and have less energy for the end, one would think. So that's the interesting thing at this point that I see coming up with the climb for the men.
And they will too. I mean, if Shane Gaffney manages to pull back Eric Sorensen, he'll say, hey, buddy, I think you dropped this, and it'll be a bag of disappointment. He'll just hand it off and then crush his will to live. That is what Shane Gaffney can do, although he's one of the nicest fellas out there until you bike race with him. Scotty in his pain spot right now, drilling. I wonder for Scotty, it's been a bit. It's been a minute since he raced in one of these CVR World Cup events, and we've seen that he's not, he's not invincible. He's doing an amazing job in this. He's definitely in great form. This is one of the things I find so interesting about virtual cycling. And I'm talking to you, Mixer. Pay attention. I'm talking to the knuckleheads who are like, what? What's this? What's going on? I don't get it. It's the hardest video game ever. That's what we're talking about. So these guys, because there's a virtual race here, you've got the ability to jump in and continue training, even though you've got a real life, a real job. Some of them even have a real dog, Frank, real dog, not just Nintendogs. By the way, Mixer, get out there and feed your Nintendogs. It's been too long. And your Neopets. All right. But these guys can continue racing. Checking in with the women here, we see a little bit further back in the race. This is what it looks like for Angela Webster. A little bit further back on the course, not in the race, dueling with Allison Kubota, trying to do this. Now, Angela animated this climb the last time they came through. Is this what's going to happen to her today? You can see her in real life in the bottom left-hand corner. She's going to be able to dig, but it looks like Allison, who's actually putting in the dig here. Angela, a little bit slow to respond. This is just a little bit earlier when Allison had to catch back on to Angela and make sense of that. She just didn't want to get left behind there.
It's one of the things I see in Angela's writing that one of the things she might want to look at working on, which is sometimes she's getting a little bit of a separation, and then she does a little bit of a dig. She burns the mass, and she overshoots the group, or as you call, sort of floats on by, and you see that happening a little bit here. I don't think this is an attack. I think she's just floating on by, and she might want to look at energy conservation. You see, she's got the shoulders are up a little bit high. It's an indication of stress. She kind of wants to roll those shoulders, relax them a little bit. You don't think that's a big energy draw, but you sort of hold those shoulders high for an hour, and that's more of an energy draw than you think. And so there's just these little things that these athletes at this level need to work on that make a difference. And if you don't believe that that's a big energy draw, just lift your shoulders up and try and hold that position for about an hour, and you'll see what kind of energy that sort of burns off. But it's one of the things I had to work on when I was racing in real life long ago. I think that was a past life, maybe a century ago, something like that. We rode on all steel bikes, and the chains broke regularly. But I really had to work on that, because you tense up, and especially when things get to go hard, your body wants to work hard as well.
Lots of good science there. I had to relax myself as I did it. Shane Gaffney not relaxing at all as he kicks it up the hill, trying to stay on the tail right there of Atsushi Kamafuji. And they're working together here. They're a nice little trio, Kameo at the front of that group, a name that we know well from this race. Shane sitting in 5th position overall. This is the official chase group. He has that bag, a little gift for Big E Sorensen as he comes up the hill. In just a second, this might be the right time. I would love a chance to take a look at the big finish of the last race, because this is what you may be have the opportunity to see. But before we do, Shane Gaffney just trying to hang on here to that group. It looks like he's going to be fine. He's not going to get separated from the group by much more. Well, no, I take that back. He is continuing to drift off the back, and these boys are moving away from him. This is not what you want. This is the group he's got to catch on to. Just a couple of seconds behind now. A minute and 9 behind Eric Lascelles and Eric Sorensen, the battle of the Erics. Okay, as we take a look at this big sprint finish from the last race, this is how it came out. Kai Barrett from the UK, they're racing with that'd be Jeff Creel from Team Vision. Matthew Brandt about 7 seconds behind. We see that big kick by Greg Leo, trying to get off the front. This is for a big sprint finish here. Greg Leo with a really crafty move off the front. They are about 300, 200 meters now from the finish. But anybody who knows Kai Barrett knows he knows how to finish. He manages to get almost 1,500 watts several times, ringing the bell. Comes around Greg Leo. You'll notice that little bit of a dip that comes around right there at the end. This is what it looked like from the position of Greg Leo, team draft. He launched out on his own, ringing that bell at over 1,000 watts. That is the draft burrito, which doesn't exist anymore, up on his screen. He thinks he's got it, but look at his face as this guy, that's right, Kai Barrett, his nemesis, comes around, and he's like, are you serious? In slow motion, we see the grimace of Kai Barrett coming around him. Greg Leo, his avatar even swore he was so frustrated. All right, back to the race as we see it currently. Losell and Big E Sorensen coming up and over the top. Scotty already deep in the descent. Who is chasing at this point? It is Gaffney, who is trying to get reconnected with Tamafuji and Kameo, but it is now 10 seconds to that pair. This could be the end for Gaffney on this climb. He popped, maybe did a little bit too much work too early. You can never discount the work that you do to stay on a group. I mean, that is your elevator, gets you further up the road than you would be without that group. But he may be finding himself alone now. Losell and Sorensen together as they are descending here. Scotty Weiss definitely all alone on the front. Losell, doesn't do you any good, my man, to sprint like crazy on this hill against Big E Sorensen. It's not long enough. It's not steep enough. And doggone it, it's just not good enough. You gotta do that on a section where you can really, really escape. Maybe that would work on me, not maybe. It would 100% work on me, Eric. But Big E is not going to allow that to happen. Now, these two will descend like two crazy people. They will be dropping down this hill so fast. And you'll see the gap go even bigger between Tamafuji, who's still climbing, Kameo, who's still climbing. That gap is going to grow dramatically, and it's going to be it. But here's the way it looks on course. Now, Eric is not alone. He's got Eric Losell in there with him. Losell, excuse me. 2 minutes behind Scotty. Scotty is coming close to the finish. You see him at the bottom on the telemetry here. The Erics are on the climb, and then Holden. That would be Holden Kameo and Atsushi Tamafuji. In that chase group with Shane Gaffney just a few seconds behind them. Here they are descending right now. You're going to get a big sprint out of these folks. And if you don't know who's going to win, then you got to find out. Throw that in the chat. We'd love to hear it. Okay. On the climb again, Angela Webster and Allison Kubota. Frank, I am impressed with Angela Webster's continued climb over this season. She has really acquitted herself well in this spring season, this CVR season. Is it possible? Do you think we could see her at one of these events possibly in the future? She gets better and better and better all the time.
Absolutely. I think you see the trajectory that Angela is on. And while she's up against a tough competitor in Ellison this season, I think she's going to be an odds-on favorite next season as well. She is developing all of the time. I talk about she's got a few things to work on in terms of energy conservation. So think about that. She's here. She's hanging on with Ellison. She's at the front of the race. She's at the pointy end of the race. And she's still doing things that burn energy. She still hasn't learned everything about Zwift yet, because that's a very common thing that people do on Zwift, which is they get dropped and then they over pedal, if you will. They put too much energy into their pedal strokes and they drift on by, and that doesn't seem to add up. But you do that 10 or 15 times and you're really burning a match. And that energy, as she learns to conserve energy and follow people and really stay connected most of the time. I don't think you want to stay connected 100% of the time, because then typically you're burning too much energy staying in. But getting dropped once or twice out and about is something that really works to save the energy. That means you're right on that hairy edge. And a lot of people don't like to fail, but sometimes failure is the indication that you're right on the limit of doing exactly what you want to do. And so that's what I usually look to do in a race. Maybe get gapped once or twice and then make an effort to get back on. But what that means is the rest of the time, I'm really saving maximum energy when I'm in the group. And so that's the trade-off that I make. In theory, people will tell you, well, Frank, you could just do a little bit more energy at the right spots and then you would never come off and that would save the maximum energy. And that's true. but it's just too hard to gauge it that way. And so trying to hit perfection is not usually the best approach. Knowing that you just sort of fail just a couple of times, and then you will save maximum energy.
So I think
Angela, to sort of wrap that up, I think Angela has tremendous capability in the coming seasons as she learns those energy conservation techniques, and her sprint will also get better with practice.
Well, you really brought that back to the original question in a masterful way. I mean, that was like an epic adventure, right? I mean, we went to Mordor, we were back, and then we were reminded that we did it all to save the Shire. That was fabulous. Okay. I agree. She is climbing this week quite a bit. Now, if she finishes in her position, she'll be second overall. And in the points with the streaming, carry the one, take off the shoe, she'll move from 5th position overall in the standings to 4th position. But there are some strong riders above her in that. Katie Pothier actually doing quite well. Let me make sure that I'm viewing this by the women's A alone. Katrina, of course, Weiss. Trina, we were talking about just a moment ago as we look overhead from Alison Kubota. All right, things are starting to heat up big time. This is the big finish that you have been waiting for, right? We've got the two Erics, Losell and Sorensen. They are coming close to the sprint here. Sorensen in that tail gun position. He's going to be able to react just a little bit. Losell ramping up just a little bit, backing off a little bit. There he goes. Big dig. His avatar comes out of the saddle. That means he's going really hard. Sorensen may have a bigger top end. He is just kind of hovering on his wheel. He knows the big position right here. When it drops down at about 100 meters out, that's when you really drop the hammer. Looks like he's going to try to do it. Losell on the front. The time is ticking away. The real estate is going away, eroding into the ocean of doubt. Now Losell, he can't break away from Sorensen. Not sure how this is going to go for him. I have bad news for you. That's Big E on your wheel. Team Draft knows how to sprint. Cannondale Four Eyes Rider is not going to let it happen. He digs even a little bit harder. But Sorensen launches that afterburner, and he goes by. The top tower was not open. I'm sorry. The pattern was full, and he goes through anyway. Not cool for Maverick Big E Sorensen. He destroys Losell's will there at the very end. All that he had. He's a big, powerful sprinter, man. You should have maybe tried to break away from him a little earlier, but great work. Scotty already cooling down. He may have already spun off and is out doing a tour around the block. Who knows? But back to the hill, you see Trina Weiss coming up. We'll take a look at that big sprint finish again to break down maybe how it happened. And if you're really good, we'll do it in slow-mo. Okay. Trina climbing that last difficult painted section of the real life ride, which is Box Hill. Look in the background there, you can see the Eye of London in the distance now fading away. Also fading away are the other riders behind her, folks like Hewitt, Katie Pothier, Jen Mattis, Cabrera, and all of those. Up ahead, you see two other strong riders. Here they are right now, Alison Kubota, Angela Webster. We're going to get a big sprint finish from the two of them. And in a second, I want to hear what Frank thinks is going to happen here at the very end. Allison, a very strong rider, can definitely ride people off her wheel. She has won a sprint or two. But you'll look at the vehicle setup here. These are the bikes that they have selected. Now, Allison, a very experienced rider. That's not an old joke. No, she's just been in Zwift a long time. But so has Webster. And here's how we know. She's done a ton of climbing, Alison Kubota, because she's unlocked that Zwift experimental bike. That's the Tron bike that she's on with the blue wheels. Looks great. I know. We love it. You got to climb so far, 5 times up Mount Everest, basically, to earn that bike. They come through the banner. The crowd is cheering. They want to see a big finish here. Angela Webster is rocking, of all things, the disc wheel, which hasn't been available since beta. And I believe that that's correct. Frank will correct me if I'm wrong. Both of those are really nice aerodynamic fits, but the rolling resistance is a little bit higher for Allison over time at higher speeds than it is for Angela Webster. The great thing about a disc wheel like that, and you're like, why would somebody wear a disc? Well, it's heavier. It's harder to take up the hill, frankly. So the fact that she's still on the wheel says an awful lot. But it will basically sustain that max speed longer. Think of it, rotational weight, right? It tends to keep an object in motion, right? Especially if the object of that motion has, or the object has a significant mass. And that's the whole point of a carbon wheel. A little bit more mass, a little bit more mass on the outside. That's why a deeper dish wheel tends to go a little bit faster. Okay. Trina Weiss, climbing the hill. She is alone. She's 2 minutes behind Webster and Kubota, but she looks like she is going to outrun Hewitt. That gambit at the beginning has paid off. She pushed her hips into the middle, and she is going to find herself in that third position overall. And my goodness, those points are going to come in handy. They move her from third position to second position overall in this women's field. That is pretty exciting stuff. Now, I just want to double check here in our, and you can do this too, but at cycleview.cvrworldcup.com. We've got a couple of riders that are present here that are not in the overall list. Of course, results today are not final. They are preliminary, but we'll get in on those anyway. But no, it looks like Trina could find herself in second position overall. Now, much has to be determined yet, but I think that we're going to get this. We're going to get a big, fabulous finish from this. But I'm excited to see the possibility of Allison potentially winning this women's A field in this G zone. Again, 8 global zones, people competing from all over, which is absolutely fabulous. Okay, as we check in one last time, does the winner get to join the Tour de France? No. Slap him around, chat. No, but they do have the opportunity to go to the big CVR World Cup event in, of course, Vancouver, British Columbia. Okay, I asked you before, how is this going to finish, Frank?
I think it's advantage Ellison here. I've picked on Ellison's sprint a few times in the past, much to my demise. She's done a fantastic job making me look foolish in terms of her ability to sprint. Ellison is great all-arounder. She can time trial. I tend to think of her as a time trialist, but she's certainly shown me that she can sprint. Angela, still, I think, developing her sprint over time, so I think it's definitely advantage Ellison. We're going to watch these two right to the end and see what happens. And we're having a little trouble with the helicopter. I think we've downloaded about a terabyte of data here at CVR Studios, and I think our router is a little bit tired. And so pulling in some of the rider streams is a little bit of a challenge at the moment, but we're going to try and keep those for the finish. No worries. We have the game feeds locked in, and we'll be able to show you those no problem.
Okay, as we're getting close to the big finish here, just tease it a little bit. These are riders, some of these riders are going to win these zones and be invited to the Harry Jerome Sports Center. That's spelled the Canadian way, Centre, right, with the ER at the end, RE at the end, rather, June 23rd and 24th. Sorry, if you were writing that down, you're never going to catch it. Check it out on CVRWorldCup.com or, of course, the CVR World Cup Facebook page. If you're in that neck of the woods, you got to come to this event. You got to shake hands. You got to stand next to these riders and cheer them on as they do their amazing, crazy thing. Very, very strong finish. Lots of great stuff. They're going to compete for up to $10,000 for that top position, but every position in that finishing run makes more money than professionals make on the average weekend of bike racing. Okay, checking it out from the view of Allison Kubota. There she is. She's trying to gear up to this. Now, her heart rate is in a nice, comfortable position. Angela Mann, her heart rate in a much less comfortable position, almost 30 beats per minute as I look at it from my position. Angela Webster, rather, just getting ready to do this. Now, here is that section where things can go a little bit crazy as we see it from Webster's point of view. She kicks it into high gear, comes up and over this. This is not a finishing move here by Allison Kubota, but it is something that'll stress the legs. You got to keep spinning when you get to the top. Keep your your overall speed nice and high. All right, it's time for you to chime in. If you are near your phone, if you are watching this on any of these devices, we have so many hanging out with us today. Hundreds on Mixer. Thank you very much. Throw in the chat, who do you think is going to win this race? Is it Allison or Angela? I know they both start with an A. You could say Kubota. You could say Webster. It doesn't matter. You could say whichever one you want. Who do you think is going to win this? And we'll see if you're right. And if you are, you may get a prize, which is me making fun of you. We'll see if that actually happens. All right, back to the big race as it's going on right now. Allison Kubota and Angela Webster. Just getting ready for this big finish. They are less than a mile from the finish. We recognize this space right here. Historic London, that would be the Tower of London off to the left, at least the virtual tower. To my knowledge, no avatars have been locked there, but you never know. All right, Kubota in that perfect position right there. This is the position where you can sprint around. But Webster dips into the red a little bit earlier and maybe tries to initiate something Allison was not ready to see. Kubota having to pick it up right here. But now Webster has flipped the script and she is in control. She can see everything that Allison does and can decide, am I going to go hard right now or am I going to match her? She can manage that gap. You just don't want to let her get back in your slipstream. She's getting dangerously close. Webster's got to kick it into high gear and open that gap up. Now they're reconnected. This gets a little bit easier to have happen. One rider in the way. Now they're inside of 200 meters as they come around. Gradually, you see the banner. Here they go. Allison Kubota trying to kick it into high gear. And Webster trying to top it up, but she doesn't have the same kind of one. Kubota's going to come around and put onto that banner first and take this 6th week of CVR World Cup. And this is the league. All right, here is the way it came down. With a great move by Webster, dipping into that red. She went early. She's given it everything she's got. But look at that RPM. She's nice and high. She's able to get steady watts, but she can't get those peak watts at 116 revolutions per minute. But look at Allison. In fact, I'll ask a strange question since this is, we'll look at it just a second in the replay. In fact, if we can go to the replay right now, that would be amazing. In fact, check this out, ladies and gentlemen. This is what you want to take a look at. And we're going to even drop this into just a little bit of this in a second. We'll look at this at 50% and finish this out. Frank, that was a masterful move. But we saw a very veteran move by Allison by taking a really big gear and grinding and accelerating that tempo through it to top out. We see Scotty do that from time to time as well. And which is a really, really powerful thing. What is the technique that they're doing there, Frank?
They're just looking to build a lot of power. What you really want to do is be able to start in a big enough gear that you can hit 110, 120 RPM without shifting. Now, most people find it very, very difficult to shift at the end in a sprint because you're putting just a tremendous amount of power, and it also makes them nervous because the chains will tend to jump and those sorts of things as well. We'll get to the replay here in just a second. Let's watch Katrina. She's just about to finish. So we'll watch Katrina go through the finish here, and we'll queue up the replay and go from there. So what you see now, I was always able to shift, and a lot of the big sprinters, for instance, I would sprint against Gord Fraser, and Gord would be like, man, like you can shift. And when you shift, you actually have to change the power in your legs. So it's sort of a coordinated effort. You click to shift, and then what you do is sort of just ever so momentarily take your power off the pedals just ever so slightly, and then back on to the power. But most people just want to go all out, sprint the full way, and if they shift, their chain will pop and jump. And when you're under that much power, you can unclip your pedals, you can jump out of the system, and that sort of thing as well. So that's sort of the difference in the sprint as well.
Well, that is the big finish there. If you look at her face, she is just thrilled with her performance. She comes in 3rd overall in this, and that is amazing. Amazing work by her. She made a big move to stay with that lead group, even though it was probably more than she felt comfortable doing, and she held that for as long as she possibly could. All right, so we're getting to the end of this, and many more questions are answered. We are filling in the sheet. It looks like we have a sense of who in 2 weeks' time is going to be anointed and invited to that event. You can check out all those details here over on the CVR website. That's cvrworldcup.com. You can check out all of these riders each week, and we are making our way week by week to the World Cup event in Vancouver, BC, the Harry Jerome Sports Center on June 23rd and 24th. And you can see this. Hey, I just want to give a big thanks to all those who've been here. Doing a great job. So much technology, Johnny TX. So much love, British Knights. We really appreciate you being here. Hey, if this is your first time here and you're like, what in the world is this? Who are these women? Who are these men who are racing the hardest video game ever? Click that follow up there and just let us know you're here. And we're not even asking for a sub at this point, but hey, if you want to, we'll find some sweaty towels and we'll send them your way. But thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate your being here. Where's Nathan Guerra? That's a good question. I'll text him afterwards and we'll ask him. I think he's at Arby's, frankly, but I'm not sure. Anyway, we appreciate all the work that these folks do to be here. We appreciate Cyclogen, of course, for putting this on. Saris, Cyclops, everybody. I want to thank my mom. She was great. She made those sandwiches. She cut the bread off on the outside. It was just the inside bread, none of that crust stuff. But thank you very much for watching us. We'll be back next Tuesday. You can check out in about 2 hours' time the big race that's going to happen in the final zone, Zone H, one of 8 global zones. And just give a big shout out of thanks. If you've got the tweeter, use the tweeter and say, thank you, Garneau. Thank you, PowerTap. Thank you, Saris. I just saw a crazy video game today. And for everybody, for Frank, for the entire crew, all of them, and Kathy, we appreciate all the work that everyone's done to make this possible. So much technology, so much sweat, so many tears. And we'll see you very soon. Talk to you later.